Hello, the card from Adventures that we have today is Guide. The events are Scouting Party and Expedition. So my initial thoughts looking at the board was to build some kind of border village wharf engine that plays honestly a bunch of money at the end of the action phase. There's also Oracle you can attack your opponent with, but that attack isn't really too devastating. There's also Develop, you can do nice tricks with Develop. Also looking at the board, after I saw Border Village Wharf, the next thing that I saw was IGG, so I looked for a source of trashing other than Spice Merchant and found Develop. I thought that would be sufficient to deal with curses coming in from IGG if my opponent chose to go for that strategy, and for that reason I opened with Spice Merchant on 4 and Develop just to deal with the curses. Even if there's no curses coming in, Develop can target estates, and with Border Village on board and other 5 costs, you can do some tricks with Develop maybe later on in the game, so it won't be wasted even if my opponent doesn't go for the IGG. Here on this 3, on my turn 3 here, I'm thinking about maybe a second Develop or maybe a Silver, even an Oracle perhaps. An Expedition is also possible. I opt for the Silver because I think I need the money to get up to Border Village. Here my opponent goes for a Scouting Party, and if they only had 2 coin, I think this was a misplay because it means that in the back you have what, 5 copper. If you had all 3 estates in this hand, you only have money in your next hand, so you would maybe have gotten to Border Village without that Scouting Party. Here I top deck a Silver with the Develop, and knowing that I have a Silver on top of my deck, I choose to buy the Expedition, then hoping that it would get me to 6, and so said, so done. I have 6 plus the Spice Merchant. There's 2 estates left in my deck, so I know I can safely draw through at this point. I won't get less than $6 by doing this, and I get my first Border Village and a wharf this way, so Expedition providing a bit of a kickstart here. I'm able to get there with just the 1 silver in my deck, I believe. So here my opponent has managed to develop an estate into a guide. I think guide will be instrumental in this game just to get around bad draws, to be honest. You maybe want 1 or 2 guides at most, and I plan to develop at least one of my estates into a guide, which is what happens here actually. You want it for the stability of your engine. If you're going to be playing a bunch of treasures, it is possible that you start your hand with 5 treasures and you don't want to start your hand with 5 treasures. So you can use your guide to get rid of that hand and find back the treasures later. On this 4, I buy a second Spice Merchant. The reason for that is 1, I am going to be able to trash these coppers away more quickly, and 2, with the Develop in my deck, I can turn that Spice Merchant into Bazaar Silver, for example. There are quite a bit of options for me with that Spice Merchant. So here my opponent manages to get up to 6, but instead of going for a wharf, they opt for a second Spice Merchant, which I found a bit strange. So they get Border Village and gain a second Spice Merchant. Here I am going to develop this. This is my final estate here, so I'm going to get rid of it and get my second guide. I think 2 guides is sufficient. There's probably only 1 bad starting hand that you'll get, so you can always have at least 1 guide on your mat this way, I believe. And I pick up second Border Village and second wharf, so the draw is coming along very nicely here. So here my opponent manages to trash with Spice Merchant and with Develop. So now with the draw in my deck, it is time for me to start thinking about how I want to shape it. What is it that I want to do with my deck? So this will be going on during the course of the next few turns. Here my opponent comes up with only 4. They turn their estate into another guide. So here I have the option to call my guide or to take the cards from Wharf first. I take the cards from Wharf because I have a good start in hand already with the 2 Spice Merchants and 2 coppers. Here I'm able to play my second Wharf, which is very good. And at this point I did some calculation and I realized that if I develop this Spice Merchant, into a silver and a bazaar, I can come up with 10 coin for this turn. And with 10 coin, I can go for bazaar and wharf. And I really need to start thinking about payload at this point, what it is that I want my deck to do, because it is very, very close to the point where it can draw itself. So here I make the play developing my second Spice Merchant into Bazaar Silver and land up with 10 coin, going for another Wharf and another Bazaar here. I want at least 2 Wharves in play this game. At least 2 Wharves in play at the start of each turn. So I pick up the Bazaar there and the Wharf. My opponent calls a guide here, I believe, and sets aside another one. So the guide discarded Spice Merchant, Copper Estate, and another Copper, I believe. So not the greatest hand in the world. I can understand that guide play there. So here, like I said, at this point I have to start thinking about what I want my deck to do, and judging from how things have gone so far, it seems like you just want to put a lot of money on the board. There's no pressure from IGG or anything of the sort here. My opponent manages to trash quite a bit and comes up with 6 here. Goes for a border village and another wharf. So we have 2 wharves at this point each. However, I have a bit more money in my deck. So here, again, I can develop this Spice Merchant, but instead I'm going to opt to trash with it just to get through till the end of my deck here. So here, before playing this bazaar, I stop and think, well, I can develop this bazaar into something. I can develop it into border village or gold maybe. And the forecast is obviously a Spice Merchant. I opt for the gold here because, like I said, I really want to start adding payload to my deck. So I get the gold and the Spice Merchant, and with the second wharf I can draw both of those cards immediately, and I can even trash this copper for 2 coins with the Spice Merchant. So here on 13 I have quite a few options. There's double border village, there's maybe bazaar, wharf, expedition, bazaar, wharf, oracle. I opt for a border village and a wharf because I want to continue building the draw. Like I said, I want at least 2 wharves in play, and I only have 3 so far, so that was sort of a kind of sure thing that I was going to do. My mouse is hovering over the border village here, and so I'm thinking about getting border village and something else, maybe explorer. Instead, I opt for a second gold, which I think is the correct thing to do here. I have enough draw at this point. I have guides on my tavern mat, so there's very little chance that I'm going to stall out at this point. My opponent comes up with 6 again here and goes for a border village, gaining a wharf, which is reasonable enough. Here I call my guide because, like I said, I had a handful of treasures. Didn't want to see that. Wanted to get to my action cards. So if you notice, throughout my turns here, I'm going to try to play border village first rather than bazaars, because I know I can develop the bazaars into something more useful perhaps. So here I play my develop. On the Spice Merchant, and I pick up a bazaar and a silver here, and it pushes me now to 18 coin. So here this could have been triple border village. I considered that. I think the correct play here would have been border village gaining wharf and double gold. Instead I opt for something a bit different. I go for province, bazaar, wharf. At this point I was considering and thinking about, well, I have 18 now, can I push it to 24? Can I get up to triple province? And I think I can. And with that in mind, I really should have gone for the double gold, because to get there I'm thinking about developing bazaar into gold and Spice Merchant or something like that. I think the border village and the double gold was better there. Anyways, at this point in the game, it's just about drawing your deck and making use of the cards you have there. I get rid of this spice merchant and pick up a silver and a bazaar. Set aside that guide there, and I have 20 now. So here I'm going to get, these last two turns for me were quite strange in that I bought both points and tried to build my deck at the same time, which is not usually recommended. You usually want to build, and then when you go for points, you go for points strictly. So those last two turns perhaps weren't the most accurate from me there. But at this point in the game, it didn't matter that I made those inaccurate plays really, because I'm quite a bit ahead on the money game here. You notice on my last turn that I pick up an explorer. I can gain gold and get up to that $24 mark that I want to. My opponent here finally manages to come up with a substantial amount of coin. 12 goes for a province here and a spice merchant. So here I really want to, another point that I remembered here with the guide is that I really want to call it on my 5-card hands. I don't want to draw with my dwarves and then have to call it. It would be a waste of dwarves, I believe, at that point. Waste of card draw. This is just something I kept in mind throughout the game, really. So I develop a bazaar here, and I know I can draw whatever it is I gain, and I choose gold, and I gain another gold of the explorer. Spice merchant trashing silver here is not really going to do much, and I go for the big triple province turn here. My opponent gets 2 dwarves down and will draw through their deck. Presumably they've been doing so for a while now. So I will keep this hand with my guide because a bunch of villages are here, and like I said, I've been trying to play the border villages first, trying to hold back bazaars so that I can develop them into something more useful. So I know now that I have the capacity to triple province even more at this point with the explorer in my deck. So it looks very safe for me here. I wasn't worried about my opponent getting double province. They would need double province and 4 duchies, and there's only 1 gain they have through develop. Yeah, so they would need the double province and 4 duchies to tie the game. And I didn't think they could do that. There's no way. They just don't have the money or the gains to be able to do that. So me grabbing those 3 provinces was fairly safe in my mind. They get an oracle of a spice merchant here with a bazaar as well, and come up with 16 and effectively click resign here by getting the last 2 provinces. So that's the end of the game. Thanks for watching, and please leave comments below.